For me, being anxious attached my whole life, being avoidant was kind of nice.
Yeah, you're like,
it really was. I was like, okay, this isn't healthy, but...
Hello, welcome back to another episode of More Than Friends. And today I have my best friend on here. I have missed you.
I missed you too.
Finally, I have you back. This is Abby Rao. Of course, if you don't know, you should know. But today I was going to ask you some pretty deep questions when it comes to dating and kind of just like why we are the way we are and get, really into it. No more surface level shit. We're changing it up.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right. So when can you tell internally that you're in a healthy relationship?
When I feel like I don't have to think about what I'm saying before I say it.
Yeah.
Or like I don't have to walk on eggshells or like worry about monitoring that person's emotions constantly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's
I would say that too. Because even for me, I noticed like my nervous system just feels more settled. I feel safe. I was like, because I've been in relationships before where I was like, I have to like play games or like make sure I'm saying something a certain way to act cool or whatever it was. It's because they were making me feel not good about myself. So then I wasn't acting that way. So I noticed like a better part of me comes out when I'm with someone that makes me feel safe and they're healthy.
Yeah. And I think also like externally, I think whenever the people around you that are closest to you can tell you like, you are 100% your full self around this person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because it's weird when you see friends and you're like, why are you changing so much? Or like, you're like, I actually want to just hang out with you without your partner because then the real you is hanging out.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I've noticed that with one of my friends recently. I feel like she's always like catering to make sure he's okay and his feelings are okay. And I'm like, you're not even hanging out with me anymore. Like, where'd you go?
I've been there. But, recognizing it and hopefully she can like move past that. But I mean, it's rough.
Yeah, it's hard, especially if you have any like anxious attachment. Because I remember as I was doing healing, I went from avoidant attachment, which is isolating because you keep everyone at arm's length. But then as I was healing, I turned into anxious attachment. And I was like, holy shit, that is hell. I honestly, that one I didn't like. I was like, at least avoidant, my ego was like, okay, well, I pushed them away. I like got rid of the person. But then anxious, when you can feel that you're like pushing someone away, it's like it's kind of the worst feeling ever.
Yeah. I spent most of my life in the anxious, and then you remember when I made the switch.
Yeah.
And then I almost went to like kind of avoidant, but I'm leveled out now, I think. But for me, being anxious attached my whole life, being avoidant was kind of nice.
Yeah, you're like,
it really was. I was like, okay, this isn't healthy, but I'm like pushing everything away, but I'm like, this is a lot better than being freaking out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I couldn't even enjoy my days. I noticed like my whole day was, what are they doing? And like I would be analyzing every text or everything we talked about and when we hung out last. And even when things were going good, I would find something. I was just like, what the fuck? Like I was just like, I hated being in my brain. And then having ADD is that on crack.
Doesn't help. Does not help.
Were there ways that you feel like the way your parents loved you affected your love life?
Yeah, I think like, my relationship is different now because my parents had me so young. So, my relationship with I say some of my parents because I also have step parents too. I think not feeling understood, not feeling like my opinion or my feelings mattered, growing up, I think that it was a part of kind of that anxious side of me in relationships, especially like, before I healed that side of me. But I think like, yeah, it made me more anxious and it made me more like really need validation, like really bad.
Yeah.
So I think that it affected that. And also it affected my friendships too. And I think that's another reason why I don't really have like a bunch of friends. Like now it's like, this is the most friends I've ever had in my life.
Yes.
Like growing up, I was always like, kind of like I had like a best friend here and then like a best friend, but like they didn't know each other, but they knew each other because of me. Like I never had this like clique. I was never kind of a part of like groups.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I think like it was also because like I'm such a deep person and I'm such a deep loving person that I was so afraid of like being abandoned and being like ditched.
Yeah.
That like I was really like, okay, well, I
Do you
don't
feel
know.
like you were putting like full energy into one friend just out of like loyalty and feeling safe and they knew you? At least that was
Yeah.
what I did. I definitely had one friend at a time and I was like, why can't I have? And then if anything went wrong with them, I had no friends.
I think so. I think I had multiple of those. But like my best friend of like my whole life, like from childhood, Sophia, like she's still my best friend. I mean,
Yeah.
like she's like my family member. I mean, my sister, my everything, like forever. And so yeah, I kind of just was like friends with like I let her lead, and a lot of times I would just like hang out with like she had a lot of friends, so I'd be
Yeah.
like, oh, well, we were best friends, but she'd be
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, we're going to do this, and I'd be like, all right, we're going to do it, la la la.
That's
you
what I
know?
do with Tara.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to learn now because that was something I had to go through recently. Like, I let her be like almost my boyfriend. Like, she would lead, like, she'd keep all the connections with our friends. She would be the one that reached out to everybody, and I would just show up. And I was like,
Yeah, and they're like,
dude.
Natasha.
They're like, and I wasn't making deep relationships with the friends. So I was like, all right, I need to fix that. I was like,
Yeah.
I think it was part of the avoidant, like keeping myself safe. It's
Yeah.
weird how it plays out in everything. Because even I learned through EMDR that the way that my parents loved me, there was like something that came up when I was 3 and my sister was born. She had a lot of health issues. Like she had an ear infection. They didn't know what was wrong with her. She was like crying all the time, needed a lot of attention. So I was used to getting all the love and attention. And then then they started just giving it to her. And then I was like, you guys don't love me. And I like, so like I took on a thing of like, I became avoidant attachment at that age, which is wild. Like I was like keeping myself safe. Like there was always a part of me that didn't trust them fully. So I was like keeping a distance. I was like, so weird to see where it came from as well.
It's crazy when you like sometimes in life, like I really feel for people because you can kind of see like, okay, there's something deeper going on, but it's hard sometimes. Like not every person operates the same way. Not every person is like able to just kind of dig deep into themselves and like be like, this is where it's stemming from. You know what I mean? Like that takes a certain type of person. And I just pray that everybody, you know, could have that moment for themselves and like whatever healing they need to do, because it is difficult to do.
Yeah.
Especially I feel like for men too, because times are changing, but I think like, you know, especially where I'm from, like in the South, and the way that like, you know, they were raised, or the way like, for instance, my dad was raised, it was very much like men are not supposed to like don't be a, you know, don't be a bitch. Don't be, you know, I don't know if you could curse on this podcast.
Don't cry.
But like, you
ever.
know,
Don't
like
show your
don't
feelings.
cry,
Yeah.
don't show emotion.
Be
So I
strong.
think like, you know, hopefully that can, because you can show, to me, showing emotion from a man is like so masculine, because it shows me that you're like very secure in yourself.
Yeah,
you know what I
you're,
mean?
like,
You're not
confident
afraid
to
to
show
like
that.
be like, this is making me cry right now. You know, it's like you're a human. It's like, yeah.
I was like, why do I find it hot?
I went,
kinda?
yeah, I'm like, oh my God, he's crying right now.
Feelings.
Yeah. But I don't know how I trailed off onto that. But
No, it's very true.
yeah, I think for me, it was like I was the only one from my parents. So, and they had me so young, and then they had a bad ending, and then they kind of started new families. And so I was always the oddball out.
Oh yeah.
And I was always just kind of like misplaced and didn't really fit in. And, you know, having step parents also at that time when everybody was very young, like it's just is very like complicated, very messy. Now it's not. Everything is like so great now, and I'm so grateful, and I just feel so blessed for that. But it was a rough road, and I think that made me always feel so alone and so like an outcast and like rejected, you know. So dealing with that and really healing that has helped me so much as a person, because I think that's why I was so like, don't leave me, don't leave me. And I was also in so many relationships that I was like wanting love so bad.
Yeah.
Instead of like loving myself and then attracting the right person. That took me a while to learn.
Yeah.
You know, because you'll also, when you get treated bad as a kid and you get treated so bad, you'll deal with a lot more in a relationship, because you're like, oh, this is nothing. I'm used to
comfort
this.
zone is
You're like, oh yeah, this is fine. You're used to having to like suffer or like fight for love, you know? And so I think like that was something, that's really the root of it, is I thought that I had to fight for love, and I had to like deal with things and just keep taking the punches, because that was normal.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, well, what if nobody else, what if I don't get a chance for someone to love me again?
Yeah.
You know?
How do you think you like raised the bar of like how you loved yourself? Like, what do you think was like a shift for you?
I mean, it really took time. I think like, especially like just everything that happened with me, like getting big on social media at 21, like that was kind of like a perfect storm for that. It could have gone the wrong way. But I think like I found myself getting so lost in it at that time that it was almost a wake up call because I felt so empty. And I think because I spent so much of my childhood alone and in my own head and in my own thoughts, I've always been very self aware. I think it was a mixture of maybe how I was born, but also just how I reacted to the environment I was in. And so I think during that time, I was like, Abby, you're empty inside. Like, this is all making you feel empty and you know it.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like went through like that weird time and, you know, wanting all that validation and then having to let go of wanting that validation. And then I think just getting older, I think like after I hit like 24, 25, I just felt different. How they say the frontal lobe. I think that's real shit really because I really did feel different. And it's funny because it's like, if I was telling my mom this the other day, if I look at my whole family, by the time everyone in my family was my age, they had a kid or multiple kids. So I'm like the person in my family that has made it the oldest without having a kid. And I can't wait to have a child. Don't get me wrong. But I think like I was able to just have the time and have the luxury because of what we do and because of, you know, social media and how blessed I've been. I think it also gave me the time to be able to heal and to be able to have that time with myself and really like seek out and figure out what works for me. And I think it's just, I think it's just time and the want to heal.
Yeah, because I feel like
and just getting older.
I feel like a lot of people too, like when I've talked to some people that went through some like hard times when they were younger, a lot of them are like, I don't want to think about it. I don't even want to go into the healing because I don't want to relive it or whatever. I was put in learning disability classes for having ADD. I did not have a learning disability. It was just ADD and they didn't know what it was then. So I always thought something was wrong with me and I need to fix it. So it's like, I would never change anything because it made me always want to like keep working on myself and do personal growth. But now, even when I do EMDR or anything like that, it's like working out. Like after you do it, you feel so fucking accomplished. Like you did some shit, you released some crap, like you like got rid of stress or anxiety, whatever it was. But that's how I feel when I do EMDR. Like after I've like gone through something that was difficult, I was like, I feel so much better. I feel lighter after. So I'm just like, I'm addicted to healing now. I could understand in the beginning, like, yes, if you went through some crazy traumas, like you're going to have to deal with some stuff that isn't comfortable. But once you get through that, like that uncomfortable phase, it's so nice.
Yeah, I like that. That's so true. Like the uncomfortable phase, everything kind of came up for me and it was really hard. And it took, it was probably like a year of like, just, I was very sensitive, like going through a lot of pain. It was like not being able to be like, live in the same house with my dad when I was a kid. Like that was really sensitive for me. Like just all these like things that I never allowed myself to feel when I was younger. Yeah. So it's like, I think, you know, depending on whatever situation someone's in, I think it's like if you're used to living in fight or flight, you're used to being like, oh, it's fine, just brushing it off. It's like at some point you're going to have to face that so that you can release it. Yeah. It's not because you're like, oh, fuck, you know, people and sometimes people in your life that maybe have been a part of that pain are going to be like, you're living in the past. Let go of the past. It's like, trust me. Like I've been ignoring this because I would like to let go of it. Yeah. But the real thing is like, of course, you know, especially if you're not living in that victim mentality of like, you know, that's another thing is I think that was why it was hard for me to face it because I was like, I'm not a victim. I'm fine. Like, I'm not going to sit here and like whine. Everybody has their shit, but you need that child inside of you, that person inside of you. It's okay to be like, that sucked. Figure out what works for you that can allow yourself to release it and do it because life has been so much better since then.
Even just, don't you notice like the people you attract into your life, the relationships you have, you're just like, oh, they're like beautiful. Like I feel so grateful because even we all went to dinner the other night. I'm just like, I'm so grateful I have like friends that actually do love me in my life instead of like the people I used to settle for when I was younger that like, you know, they were all talking shit about you as soon as you left and you knew, I just didn't even feel safe around them, to be honest.
Yeah, we were talking about that at dinner, how like it's so nice to just feel like so safe in yourself, and just, you don't have to worry about, you could just fully be yourself, and you know that you're appreciated for who you are and understood, and somebody's not thinking like the word, like,
like judging you,
like you're seen. It's just, it sounds so, like I feel so seen, but I really do. Really and now it's like, I think also it's important for people to have healthy boundaries. I think that was a huge thing for me. And my situation was like creating those boundaries and sticking to it, because a lot of people, whether it's family, whether it's somebody that's been in your life your whole life, and people are like, oh, well, they're your family. Oh, well, they're this. It's like, it doesn't, if they are bad for your life and you have to cut them out, cut them out. It doesn't mean that it might not, it will have to be forever, because there was, times where like I had to cut very close family members completely out of my life. In my situation, it made them heal too, because they realized, okay, wait, I don't have access to her anymore. Like, okay, and maybe they might blame you at first, but in my case, and what you can pray for is that they'll be like, okay, wait, let me look at myself now, because everything's quiet. Let me try to look at their perspective. Let me try to look internally. And then it completely changed the relationships, and it allowed them to start their healing.
Because I think that's what's hard for people to understand, is you are training people how to treat you. So if someone's treating you poorly, and especially it's hard when it's a close family member, because I went through that as well. I was just in a toxic relationship with a family member, and I'm like just allowing the abuse because I love them. And I was like, oh, they're never gonna change unless I actually like distance myself.
And it's heartbreaking. I mean, it really is. Like it's hard. I'm just so grateful for like where I stand today with my family, and like the journey that we've all been through, and getting older too. Another thing I realized is like, and I might have mentioned this to you before, but when you're growing up and you see kind of like relationships, and you're like, they're so toxic, or like you'll see a woman, she's so beautiful, she's so sweet, and she's like with this guy that, or it could be opposite, vice versa. And you're like, why would you marry him? Like, why would you? But you get older, and now the situations I've been in and the relationships I've been in where I almost settled, and I was like letting those fears come into my mind of like, well, what if this is my last chance? Well, I'm getting it. I'm in my later 20s. Like, I want to have a family. Like, what if this is, you know what I mean? And you let all these, well, this person could take care of me, or like, I would have a good life with this person. It's just like, you let all these lies go into your head. And so I get why women settle.
Yeah.
Because it was so hard for me. Like, there were so many times that I was like really battling with myself, and you saw that.
Yeah.
And so I think like, I am proud of myself for listening to my heart, but at the same time, it made me have more compassion and understanding for women that do get stuck in situations with a man. In my situation, it's woman, but a man, it might be a different perspective. But it just made me really be like, I get it. Yeah. I get it now.
Because did you ever have like a relationship that was kind of like the turning point for you, where you're like, okay, I'm not gonna like accept this anymore when it comes to how you were being loved or treated?
There was one that was like a turning point for sure. And I think I realized like, yes, this person's a good person. It's not that I don't love this person. It's not that I don't think they love me. But like, I looked at my life with that person, and I knew that I was going to be not okay living like that. And I was like, I'm not like, I had to believe that the person inside of me knew, my soul knew that like, I would find a partner, or I will find a partner that I won't feel that way about. I think like the main thing was like at night, like laying in bed, what like the last straw was for me is like that person was asleep, and I was like laying next to them, and I just felt so like scared and alone. Yeah. Even though I wasn't alone, I felt so alone and not understood. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I pictured getting older and like having kids and being a wife and having to take it in, like feeling like that at night after a long, like, no, nuh-uh. No. I ain't doing that. Yeah. No, I'm not living my whole life like that. I'm not doing that to myself.
Yeah. Or your kids.
Or my kids. Yeah. That was the main thing. Yeah. Honestly, it was me, but also because I was like, I don't want my kids to ever have to go through anything that I went through or feel any of the ways that I felt. I'm just not doing it. Sorry.
Especially coming from, like, even for me, divorced parents. That's why I really never wanted to settle all my life, and I became a little too avoidant. I never wanted my kids to see the example of love as not being, like, me settling, because I saw both my parents settle. And I was just like, oh, you guys are so weak.
Yeah.
And then so I went on, like, a path to, like, to the extreme where I was, like, being too picky with everyone. As soon as I healed my attachment style, it was like love came into my life right away. I was like, holy shit. I was waiting forever trying to learn all these tips and tricks and, like, convince people to like me and treat me good. And then as soon as I just released what caused me to be pushing people away, it came within that month.
It's
like,
crazy because I saw the shift in you, and it was wild. That's what happens when you tap in with yourself. I think it's just really, I know it sounds like corny and cheesy and like cliche, whatever, but really self-love is really the key to everything. If you truly love yourself and value yourself as if it was you were your daughter. Yeah. Or even as a man, it's like, think about if you were your son, or even if you were your daughter as a person, how would you want them to be treated? Someone that you love unconditionally. It's like that. Imagine that. That's what you deserve.
Yeah. That just reminded me of that movie when she's like telling her husband, like, if your daughter came to you and said that this man was treating her this way, would you let her date him? They're like,
right.
No.
Exactly. No. So it's like you deserve, and this reminds me of something like I was just telling, I have someone in my life that's going through like kind of this shift, but I think when you get to like kind of that age of, you're like, I still feel young. I still feel like a kid, but like you ain't a kid anymore. Like you're an adult. You're a real adult. You're not like 21. You're not like a young adult where you're like new to adulthood. You're like, okay, you're kind of an adult now, bro. Like this, you know.
Too old for this.
And so I think when I hit that point, it's like difficult. It's a difficult shift because you're kind of letting go of that, all the things that the inner child in you or like that kid didn't get, either from your parents or from like, you know, whoever it is, your grandparents, whoever is important to you in your life, or whatever love you wanted or whatever attention you wanted that you didn't get, or a relationship that wasn't the way that you wanted it to be. I think like kind of turning the page into adulthood and realizing that you have to let that go, and you're never going to get that, and that's okay. And so all of those things, that parent that you might want or that person you might want to be there, you have to be that for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really hard shift to go through. It really is. It's kind of like I'm turning my focus to the future now, and like my future family, my future kids, like that's my focus now. You feel that kind of shift happen. Yeah. And it's difficult, but I think it's obviously a part of life. And I think, you know, you realize that maybe some of the people you like put on this pedestal are not gonna, they're human too.
I remember having that like wake up call. I would always date guys that I didn't see in my future long term. And I had never understood people that, like, when I was younger, they'd be like, oh, I only date people that I could see myself marrying. And I was like, weird. And then, but it was because I could never see myself marrying anyone that I was ever dating. I always like wasn't attracting the type of men that I would want long term. And then it was wild once I became the age where I'm an adult. I was like, okay, I need to start taking this serious. And it's cool when you have that shift. You're like, okay, I think that's where I realized I can't keep blaming other people for not being what I want them to be and the guys that I'm attracting. It's a me thing. Mm-hmm. Like, it's probably me. As much as I didn't want to accept it, I was like, all right, I'll do the healing.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also ignoring those red flags, at least for me. I would like start relationships, and it kind of goes back to what I said before of like I would deal with things, but like, you know how I was. I would like, I just fall in love so quickly, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, they're amazing. And then through that process, I'm just like so blinded, and then it's like they would do this, and you're kind of like, like a normal person would be like, and I'm just like, that's nothing. They're perfect. No, they're amazing. They're amazing. I'm telling you, they're amazing. You know, I would like do that.
Yeah.
That was the issue. That was the ignoring those red flags, and then they build up, and then by the time you're like deep in, you're like,
you've been with them for a while.
You're deep in, and then you're just like, oh, this ain't it.
I have to break up with them, and I told them we're for sure getting married.
Yeah, I know. You're like, oh, I had the best intentions though.
Mine was like the opposite, where I would like settle in a relationship that I knew I wouldn't be in forever, just because. And it was weird because I noticed I wasn't speaking my needs too, because I had an issue of like it was hard for me to be vulnerable, and I didn't feel safe to. So over time, I would be in a relationship with someone. I would like them in the beginning, but over time, I would slowly stop liking them because they would do things and I wouldn't speak up and tell them how I wanted to be treated or things like that. And you start going to the point of where you don't want to have sex with them anymore. And then you're like, I don't know why, I'm just not attracted to them anymore. And I finally figured it out that I was like, oh, I wasn't communicating what was really, like, why I didn't feel emotionally connected to that person. Because sometimes, like, you just need a good date night where you're like, let's talk about our feelings, let's talk about things. Or you need to talk about an issue that's going on. And that's why you don't want to be intimate. I, like, couldn't comprehend that it could come from somewhere else. I was just like, oh, I'm just not attracted to them anymore, I should break up with them. And I feel like that happens to women all the time.
Definitely. Because I think a lot of times it's, from a woman's perspective, I think, like, we're naturally so just kind of like, okay, like, we're, like, nurturing and, like, always willing to kind of take a little bit more. So I think, like, sometimes that point of us stepping into, like, our power as a woman in a healthy way, I think taking up for yourself can be hard. And saying something, because you just want to kind of keep the peace. You're like, I don't want to, make them feel bad or make them feel like I'm you know what I mean? So I think that's rough. But when you realize it's essential, you're like, I got to do it. Like, hey, I love you, but this ain't, you got to stop doing this.
And I had the people pleaser where I would still be intimate out of, like, feeling bad. And then I would hate them more over time because I felt like I was just doing it for them now instead of just speaking the fuck up.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
That is a cycle.
Well, thank you so much for sharing some deep shit with us.
It was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And tell them where to find you.
Abby Rao. ABBYRAO.
And I'm Tash, 9 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us.